It's getting close to 1 o'clock here at Hummel Hall in Rosamond on Saturday, and there's supposed to be a town hall meeting with Cindy Zimmer, Sheriff Youngblood, and Supervisor Zach Scrivener. Not many people have shown up for this, and I think that's because Saturday is prime time for these people that commute during the week. On Saturday, they like to stay home. They're not really in the mood for meetings. Better to have this to coincide with an RMAC meeting. People know about that and are used to coming in the evenings. But we'll go in and see what's happening. So we're here at the public meeting, and I'm asking Miss Rosamond how she likes serving.
I like it. It's good to be involved with the community, and I love helping out with the community, like picking up trash and just making everyone smile and meeting new people.
Uh-huh. That's good. And so where are you in school?
Rosamond High School, sir.
Okay, so you'll be a senior next year?
Next year. A junior. I'm so sorry.
You wish you were a senior.
Yes. And then I go to Antelope Valley College too.
Uh-huh.
As a freshman.
Oh, that'll be good. Well, thank you very much. I hope you continue to have a good reign.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you to John for being here from Rosamond News. We're going to start with introductions, and so I'm Zach Scrivener, 2nd District Supervisor, and we'll go down to the end with our Sheriff.
I'm Sheriff Donnie Youngblood.
I'm Cynthia Zimmer, Kern County District Attorney.
Kenzo Lackey, I'm your Area Lieutenant.
I'm Al Rojas. I'm the Program Manager for Code Compliance.
My name is Nick Cohen. I'm the Director of County Animal Services.
So when I asked the Sheriff and Cindy, and they were so gracious to be here today, but also wanted to have Al and Nick here because I know that a lot of times code compliance issues will come up and animal services issues will come up. Lieutenant here, he runs the area for us for Sheriff, and so if there are other people who you think of, hey, it would have been great to have them here, then we'll do it next time. Completely open and happy to do that. And so I think obviously the main topic today is going to be what I think is on a lot of your minds, which is the sheriff staffing and crime prevention, crime response, etc. To the extent to which we want to bring in Al and Nick, please feel free to do so. But they may have more of a limited role in comparison to our law enforcement folks. But that's totally up to you. Whatever everybody wants to talk about is what we'll talk about. And so, Donnie, do you feel like starting us off here and just kind of give us a lay of the land?
I think we're going to end up with, we need more deputies in Rosamond, and we could be running bush all day long, but that's really the bottom line. And I will tell you this, I totally agree with you. Not only is Rosamond substation deputies smaller number today, a lot smaller. Boron had 5, they now have 0. You can go to Fraser Park, they're the same percentage less. Bakersfield had 91 patrolmen when I was the commander in 1991. Today I'm fielding 48. Last 2 years, we've hired as many deputies as we possibly can. We were minus 33 last year. So far this year, we're minus 17. If that gives you any indication where we're headed, and that's not just our county. It's the country and the state of California and Kern, and we have to be worse off than most other counties. So with that, I can explain to you how where we're at. How many deputies you have. I can tell you that you have one that's in field training right now. We have 60 detention deputies in the jail. I'm sorry, 60 regular deputies. We want to replace them with detention deputies so we can move those 60 deputies out on patrol. We graduated an academy of detention deputies yesterday. We had 7. 4.5-month academy, 7 people graduated. Meantime, I think we lost 12 detention deputies. I have 2 jails sitting empty. Nobody to go to work there. That's why you see a lot of misdemeanors walking the streets, because we have no place for them. I have 340 people in custody for murder or attempt murder. It's a stunning number. And the smaller the number of deputies you have, the harder it is for them to help fix the homeless problem. If you get a homeless guy, we've all seen him pushing the carts, 2 or 3 carts tied together, and you arrest him for a minor offense, or any offense for that matter. You must inventory everything that he's got and take it all with you to Bakersfield or Mojave. If it's got a lot of stuff, it goes to Bakersfield. You book him in the jail. While you're there, they cite him out, you bring him back, and you itemize everything back to him. That's an entire shift. So the one deputy you have on duty, if he does that, you got no deputy on duty. It is, we're in a catastrophic condition in this country for police officers. It's not surprising if you watch the news, but we can't find people who want this job. We used to have thousands of applicants for 10 or 15 or 20 positions. Today, we could have an academy of 50. We can't fill it. We're having academies as much as we can, and we're hiring the lateral transfers, which are police officers from other agencies. But to be honest with you, in the last 7 years, we've got 0 lateral transfers, and we've lost over 100 to other agencies. So that's where we're at. I can't manufacture deputies. I wish I could, but I can't. All I can do is try and we're changing the way we recruit. We're looking at some specialized CRTs to come out and do non-dangerous stuff, take reports. They wouldn't be armed. Those should be online within the next 90 days, but I don't know how many we're going to have or where they're going to be assigned yet. You'll see a lot of reporting done online. That's just because there's nobody to respond. You know, I'm not going to come out and tell you what's not true. This is stunning in our country what's happening, and we don't hold people accountable for their actions, and this is snowballing on us now. And if you watch the news, you can see it every single day, not just in Rosamond, but throughout our country. So with that, I'll let you.
Yeah, Donnie, thank you so much for that. You know, I want to go to Cindy to get her perspective, but I know we're going to want to come back and ask the sheriff a lot of questions. But one of the questions that's burning a hole in my mind is: it worse in California than anywhere else? Maybe we can talk about that at some point. I feel like it is, but
I believe that it is. I have no firsthand knowledge. I've talked to other sheriffs throughout the country. They do not appear to be struggling as much as we are in California. A lot of California's problems stem from Sacramento. Quite honestly, it's turned everybody loose. This is a horrible job. Defund the police. We see it all the time. And now that defund the police, they're trying to take it back. The problem is, to hire a deputy sheriff, if we start the process today to hire 20 deputy sheriffs, it will be almost 18 months before I hand them a set of keys and they go to work. And during that time, I will lose 30 or 40. They're retiring at age 45. They're walking away from this profession because, quite frankly, it can be very distasteful. And that's just where we're at. We're trying to be innovative. We're offering a $5,000 moving allowance. I just talked to Supervisor Scribner. We're working on a proposal to pay deputies to live in the substation area up to $2,000 to pay their house payment, their rent, whatever they choose to do. The more people you get to live in your community that are doing the policing, the better policing you have. We know that from our history. It's getting them to do that. And we're trying to incentivize these people to, maybe some from LA County that work in Lancaster, that they're not happy with their work environment with the DA. They have to, they can't get cases prosecuted. They work great cases. They submit it to the DA, Gascon, and he will not file the complaint. Very frustrating. Eventually you have a bunch of police officers doing absolutely nothing. And that's what we're trying to prevent. But we're trying to recruit some of those people to maybe want to live in Rosamond for an extra $2,000 to pay their house payment. I mean, that's a big deal to me. I hope it's a big deal to them. We're looking at Fraser Park, Boron, every substation we have 13 of them. We're trying to get the board to approve that, and Zach and I have been talking a lot about that. We furnish them cars. A deputy in Ridgecrest It's cost $1,000 a month just for him to drive back and forth. So if we're gonna pay $2,000, we're only losing $1,000 in the county. We're not really losing the county if they are willing to live there. So we're trying to think outside the box. That's not something any other county does. And so we're trying to do, we can't just compete with other counties with pay raises. Because the minute we get a big pay raise, they get a bigger pay raise. And it's like a ping pong ball. And so it's a struggle. Now, don't get me wrong, I think deputies are underpaid. But it's a definite struggle. We don't even have a building in Rosamond any longer, the substation building. We were in the water district and we were asked to leave. And so now we're looking for a new home. But we can have a building, if we don't have anybody in it, there's no purpose in it. And I can tell you right now, you have in Rosamond, you have 7 people assigned, and there's one on administrative leave, there's one that's in field training. So 7 minus 2, you have 5 people working all of Rosamond. And that includes the sergeant and senior deputy. At one time, there was 13. So we're struggling. And everybody in this county is feeling the impacts of that.
And it's everywhere.
It is. In the state of California, it is so competitive for police officers. We lost 2 last week. One, a young female just decided she didn't want to drive from Tulare County any longer, so she quit. And the other one laterally transferred to the Bakersfield Police Department. And I can't prevent them from doing that. But that's not unusual for us. We're losing 1 or 2 a month like that to other agencies. And none of them are coming here.
Well, Donnie, thank you so much. DA Zimmer, we'll turn over to you and we'll go down the line.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
My name's Cindy Zimmer. I'm the district attorney of the county of Kern. Some of my coworkers are here today. My number 2, the assistant district attorney, who has over 30 years of experience in the office, is here. Her name's Andrea Kohler. You want to stand up, Andrea? So she's my right-hand woman. And your cases, criminal cases that occur in Rosamond, go to the Mojave court, and your Mojave prosecutor is here today. He is Greg Kohler. Greg has over 30 years of experience as an attorney, and he's here. And if you have some specific questions about any kind of cases or this or that, he can help as well. Within the DA's office, we have our own police department. It's called the Bureau of Investigation. We don't go out and patrol, but what we do is when a case is submitted to us from the Sheriff's Department, we work on it to make it better so we can win in court, make sure that we can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. The chief of the Bureau is here today. His name is Jared Cadell. And if you have any questions of Chief Cadell, he can answer those questions. So we too are experiencing severe problems in recruitment and retention as prosecutors. Now, I've been in that office 38 years, and I've been on the hiring committee for that office for most of the time. There was a time when we could basically have who we wanted from major law schools come to the office. We're down almost a third since we were about 10 years ago in attorneys. We're trying very, very hard to recruit. What are some of the issues for us? I can tell you that there is judgment against students that want to go into the military and law enforcement and also become prosecutors in universities these days. It comes from teachers, it comes from fellow students. People just don't want to do that. People in law school these days would rather become defense attorneys or public defenders when there was a time that was not the case. So there's judgment against young people. So we're struggling against that. The laws have also changed. The laws have changed. They started about 10 years ago. You probably started seeing, whether you hear or if you drive into Los Angeles or even Bakersfield, a change in the number of homelessness. Okay. You have to know in the last 10 years what has happened there. But an increase also in violent crime and theft crimes. What has happened? Have people, their philosophies just turned into criminals? Well, there is less accountability, but I can tell you the laws have changed. And it makes their job and my job a lot harder when we don't have the tools in our toolbox to be able to send offenders into custody, so they are held accountable for their actions. Where we're seeing it the most these days, I think, is in narcotics prosecutions. There was a law that was passed in 2011 by the California legislature that prohibits some felons from going to prison. Back in the day, almost any crime qualified a convicted criminal of going to prison. But now, if you sell drugs, that's one of those non-violent crimes. So drug dealers who come across the border, bring fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, if they sell or possess for sale drugs in the state of California now, unless they have a prior violent felony, they will do county jail time. Drug users who used to have felony possession of drugs, that's now a misdemeanor because of Prop 47. We cannot order mandatory rehabilitation. We used to have such success in in-house drug rehabilitation programs, and also the sheriff had remarkable programs for people who were doing a year in the county jail for rehabilitation. These are lost opportunities for people to prevent homelessness and addiction. We cannot intervene, not to the extent that we used to. You can be convicted, but you're not going to get mandatory drug rehab or mental health. So these are some of the issues we struggle with. Mojave is our biggest and most busy regional court. We have a lot of crime out here, but not compared to Bakersfield. So about 2/3 of the crime that go to the Mojave court is committed in California City, Boron, Mojave, and your city, Rosamond. About 1/3 of it comes from Tehachapi. We, I think at this point, are well staffed there as far as prosecutors go. We have sacrificed in Bakersfield in order to have staffing in the regional areas because it's been something that's been important to me, but still we could use a lot more. We have Mr. Kohler, Judy Rogers, we have a supervisor, then I hired someone else that's going to be coming to Mojave to work in Mojave. But it's difficult for us to find lawyers who want to live in Mojave, Ridgecrest, some of the places, but we've made some strides in that regard. But still, these are tough times. But we're trying. From what we're doing, we are very aggressive in the cases that come out of Rosamond. I had the honor of prosecuting a murder that occurred 20 years ago here at the McDonald's. The victim was Maria Pina. The Sheriff's Department did an excellent job 20 years ago when they came out to investigate the case of preserving the evidence. It was an armed robbery that went bad at the McDonald's here next to Albertsons, and the clerk, she actually was the cook, was abducted and murdered. The case went unsolved, but the Sheriff's Department collected the evidence, which were ski masks and gloves that the perpetrators threw out on Highway 14. DNA changed over the years. We were able to, once we got a tip, secret witness is a really helpful tool, got those items of evidence out of the property room, did modern day DNA testing, came back positive to the suspects, and they were convicted, and they're doing life in prison without parole. We have a number of cases that we've had successful prosecutions. So yes, would we like to have more deputies and more protection so crime can't occur? Of course, we want to be able to do that, but I want you to know that we care about you. Law enforcement cares about you out here in Rosamond. I know it seems like a long way from Bakersfield. We care about you at the DA's office, and if you ever have any kind of issues regarding if you're a victim, we want you to call us. So thank you for coming here today. I think we can turn this around. I think we can turn this around in California, and it turns around in California, it'll turn around in Kern County as far as staffing and all these kind of things, but where I think it is, what the solution is how people vote at the ballot box and who you elect. Thank you.
I don't mean to put too fine a point on it, but Cindy and Donnie both talked about this Prop 47 situation. That, in my view, is why we have this homelessness problem we have. It's not a housing issue. It's, when you make it virtually legal to use methamphetamine and steal, then that's what you're going to get. And unfortunately, that's what's happening right now. But there are conversations that are occurring with Donnie and with Cindy about when we can afford to, opening up potentially more space in the jails. to try and mitigate some of that, but it's just, it's going to be very costly. Sheriff, is that fair?
That's fair.
So we're all, we all kind of acknowledge that the solution is simple, except it's very expensive.
You all know how we got Prop 47? We voted for it. But anytime there's a proposition on the ballot, there's a title and summary, which is what voters read when you go to the ballot box. And the title and summary is written by the Attorney General of the State of California. So Prop 47, the title and summary read, safe schools and safe neighborhoods. And it was anything but that. Who doesn't want that? So we voted for it, we, the state of California. And of course, that person that wrote that title and summary is now the Vice President of the United States. So, as of yesterday, I have 127 vacant deputy sheriff positions, 121 detention deputy vacant positions, and 112 civilian vacant positions that we haven't been able to fill. That just
But funded, right? But funded.
Funded, just can't get the employees.
Right.
Do you want me to talk about pot shops? You want to leave that for later?
I think probably a lot of people want to talk about pot shops, but before we do, I want to let Lieutenant Lackey give his perspective, and then I want to come down to Al and Nick just briefly, and then we're only 22 minutes in. I want to give as much time for questions as possible, but let's.
Supervisor Scrivener, panel, excuse me, but if you can use the microphones, we have a lot of refrigeration noise from about here
Okay.
back, and it's
Sorry,
a little hard to hear, so thank you.
Sorry, everybody.
All right. Hopefully everyone here can hear me.
Yes.
All right. So I've met most of you before at our RMAC meetings and other various events that we have in the community. First off, I want to throw out that Rosamond is completely unique to the rest of the county. I was a deputy sheriff here back in 2008. So I've seen this community change. I've seen it stay the same in a lot of ways too. I've also had that unique perspective of being able to see some criminals or juveniles grow up and become criminals. And on the other hand, I've been able to see a lot of juveniles grow up and be contributing members of society. Right? A lot of the deputies that are out here are the ones that have been out here since 2008. And the reason they're still here is because they are attached to this community and care. Right? We're unique in the sense that a lot of our deputies that are working out here actually live in East Kern, including myself. The ones that don't live here, it's either because they can't afford to move to Rosamond, or there's just some type of childcare issue in Bakersfield, such as whatever school they're committed to. But with that said, my boss may be sitting at the end of this table, but really you guys are my boss. I get emails from the community every day about problems, and I understand, and it hurts, especially because me and my family live here. And to put it in perspective, it was in April, we got approximately 500 calls for service just in Rosamond alone. And that's difficult to handle, especially when you only have 5 assigned deputies to an area. And I hear your frustration about how long it takes for a deputy to show up, but you have to keep in mind, from my perspective, when I have a crime against the children or a victim of domestic violence, I really want my deputy to run out there as fast as he can before he goes to a burglary or a theft. Because the truth is, for us living out here and working out here, that could be our wives, that could be our daughters, that could be our neighbors. So, one last thing I want to throw out. Today I had the opportunity of running into 3 random strangers in Rosamond, and every one of those random strangers thanked me for my service. This is the only community I've ever worked in where you can find, I'd say 98% of this public absolutely supports law and order. And I thank you guys for that.
Sometimes we can cut down the time that is required to notify an owner that a problem exists, or notify somebody that's creating a problem, as far as how long they have to clear out or how long they have to take care of the problem. We're looking at a lot of things to try to help alleviate the response and the impact to the community. For the longest time, we've relied, on the sheriff's department because we don't have arrest powers. So when we go out and tag a building or take action on a site that has people on it that shouldn't be there, you know, we've always enjoyed their support to help us remove them. Well, that's become a challenge because we know, you know, they don't have the staff to do it. So we're looking at things policy-wise that may help us. But, you know, eventually we're going to have enough deputies in the county to be able to handle things the way we did before. But in the meantime, we're just, again, continuing to look for creative solutions to help the impact to a community. So again, one of the things that excite me is that we now have somebody that's going to be out here 5 times a week.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nick. I'm the director of Kern County Animal Services. Just to give you a brief overview of what we do and what we're responsible for, and how it affects Rosamond. Not only do we operate 2, we used to be 3, 2 animal shelters in the county of Kern, one in Bakersfield and one in the Kern River Valley. But we also employ animal control officers who are responsible to patrol the entire county and enforce humane laws, pick up stray dogs, cats, and both wildlife and all kinds of critters. You know, we have 12 animal control officers that patrol the entire county. You know, we have struggled with the same issues that the Sheriff Youngblood had mentioned, filling positions. Thanks to Zach and his board, we've taken on kind of renewing the job of the animal control officer to increase recruitment, retention. You know, we're trying to do some other creative things in the position to keep people there and to increase their knowledge and their ability to enforce.
A veterinarian?
We have a veterinarian now, yes. The county had a vacant veterinary position in our department for 3 years. And we've had to really work with human resources and the board to entice a candidate to come and take that job. She's two months in. Every day I come in, I just hope she's still there. She's there. She still has a smile on her face. There's a lot that needs to be done in this county for our animals. You know, there's a bit of a crisis that's going on in not only in Kern but in the state, really across the nation. That there is a lack of access to affordable veterinary care. A lot of veterinarians are closing their doors. They are limiting services. You know, maybe you've noticed if you have a pet and you call your local veterinarian, or if you have a new pet and you try to create a new relationship with the veterinarian, they're not accepting new clients. You know, their appointments are 2 months out. God forbid if your animal has an emergency, you know, what you might have to do to obtain veterinary care. So, you know, the landscape of animal welfare is changing. It's changed since March of 2020. We're trying to adapt. We're trying to develop more resources for people to care for their pets, because we don't want to end up with them, to be honest with you. Our animal control officers, you know, we talk about response time. When you call my department for a loose animal in your neighborhood, or somebody that's neglecting their pet, you know, I would probably assume that our response times are maybe even worse than the other folks that are on this panel. You know what, we try to commit to having an officer that's assigned to both the East Kern area and the Kern River Valley, and they bounce back and forth. And so our response times are sometimes, depending on the priority of the call, you know, at times it's the next day. But we're, like I said, we're trying to get to a point where we can provide more resources to the area. You know, the closure of the Mojave Animal Shelter in mid-2020, you know, it severely restricted our ability to provide resources to this community. You know, it makes it more difficult for the folks out here to get resources from animal services, but we're still trying to adapt to make a lot of those resources available online, so that you can still maybe license your pet or submit complaints without having to go down to the animal shelter that used to be located at the Mojave Airport. You know, we are trying to provide as many spay and neuter resources to the community as we can. We were in Boron in March. We did a 2-day clinic. We were able to provide for the spay and neuter of about 100 animals in Boron and the surrounding areas in March. You know, I would ask if any of, and the only reason why that came about in Boron is because there was a group, the Boron Alive group, that reached out to me directly and said, hey, we're struggling out here. There's no veterinarians. Our people want to spay and neuter their pets. Can we get some resources? And I was grateful that they reached out to me, and I made it happen. You know, we put together a clinic. It was highly successful, and I would say for the folks in this room that, you know, if it's an issue of dogs running loose, if it's an issue trying to get animals spayed and neutered, I will give you my card. You know, I will work with you directly to try and get a spay and neuter clinic out here to fix as many dogs and cats as we can, because that's the solution to the problems of our space.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming up. Okay, let's go ahead and open up to questions. I know Cindy offered, or DA Zimmer offered to talk about the dispensaries, and so we're happy to start there, but let's just open it up to questions and see where we go.
I'll go.
Okay.
I gave everybody a chance. My name is Dr. Murphy. Sheriff Youngblood, you and I had a very lengthy conversation several weeks ago. You responded to an email that I sent. I appreciate that. So much of what I heard from you today is similar to what we had discussed. I don't want to focus on Prop 47. My biggest concern, being a Rosamond homeowner and working at Edwards Air Force Base now for the last 33 years, is crime and vandalism in this town. And the inability by many who have tried to report to get an immediate response. I understand the situation. I understand the complex issue with hiring, the number that you've got, those that don't graduate. I think a big part of our concerns is funding for the folks. You've got to make it appealing to them, and I know that that's stretched pretty tight as well. But what I'd like to focus on are solutions. Because, you know, I've lived here a long time. I've seen the decline in support. There was a time where I could call if it looked like somebody, in fact, one time it looked like someone tried to get into my home. I had an immediate response from a sheriff. There was a recent event that occurred where an individual was killed by Highway Patrol over something that had occurred, but Highway Patrol had to respond. I'm assuming there wasn't a sheriff available at that time. I realize that you're covering multiple areas. One area I didn't hear about is what is the current presence of sheriffs in Tehachapi, because Kern County covers that as well. That wasn't mentioned. I don't know if that was an oversight. So I'm wondering, are they able to respond if they're available? I don't know. So
Are you talking about deputies from the Tehachapi responding to Rosamond?
any of them, yeah. Can they all respond, or are they stuck? Are they not stuck?
They're not
but-
stuck.
They can?
They can go wherever the hot call is.
Okay.
You know, we tend to try and keep them in Tehachapi.
Right.
But in the incident of the CHP and
Yeah, no, I'm not, I wasn't trying to.
we have
dig
not
that up.
responded to any homicide in East Kern, I can tell you that. So,
Okay.
I don't know what the circumstances of that are.
Okay.
But deputies are not, Boron, they work out of Mojave.
Right.
They respond from Mojave
Right.
to the call for service.
Right.
If you have a shooting in Rosamond and Tehachapi and Mojave have one deputy, they're both counted.
Okay. All right.
Donnie, I want to drill down a little bit on her question as far as funding. Because I think for a long time, funding was what the public was being told, or at least had in their...
In 2008,
in
we
their-
went through, in this county, we went through an economic downturn. We all know, we all experienced it. Everybody at this table, we were cutting every department because there was no money. And now we have all the money we can spend, but we can't get employees. And it's not just us. If any of you have a business out here trying to hire employees, you're going through the same thing. There's no answer to it right now. I mean, we're under investigation by the Department of Justice for excessive force and constitutional violations, which didn't occur, but that's beside the point. They came back with a report. You know what the number one thing they said was? You guys are the most understaffed organization we've ever seen. And you do a remarkable job for the number of staff that you have. So we have partnered with the county in recruitment efforts to try and get people to come to work here. If you work in LA County Sheriff's Office, we'll give you a $25,000 bonus to come to work for us.
And you don't have to take a shot.
And yeah, you don't have to take a shot. Nobody has come.
And you know, so the reason I wanted to bring that up is because that is, I think, very much different than the way it was 10, 12 years ago.
It's changed.
Oh, yeah.
Where now, you know, when Donnie says he has 120 unfunded funded vacancies, that means jobs that the money is there to hire if you can only get the people to hire them. And the jail situation is, you know, equally bad. He has to staff the jail. So patrol, you know, unfortunately.
To exacerbate all this, in 2002, the then board of supervisors adopted 3 at 50 retirement for safety members, police officers, firemen. What they didn't do, 3 at 50 doesn't mean you have to be 50 years old to retire, and it should have, because they're walking away now in their middle 40s, so we're losing 5 good quality years on a lot of people.
Right.
And every time somebody leaves, you start down at the bottom and start over again.
Oh, I understand. I have to hire my own employees, so I get that piece. What I don't get is, what are our options? Because when you and I spoke, the only option you told me was I was able to protect my home.
You are. The law gives you the power to protect your family.
So do we need to stand up our own groups to protect the town of Rosamond?
You cannot. You can only protect your property. You can't protect everybody else's property.
Ma'am, we are employing strategies that we're hoping are going to be helpful over the course of time. 48% pay raises for entry-level deputies in the last 3 years. $25,000 signing bonuses for lateral transfers. That means somebody who has post-certification coming from another agency. $15,000 signing bonuses for people who go through our academy. We're doing 2 academies a year. And so those are things that we hope will help. Other parts of that, I think, are us trying to tell the story about Kern County, where, you know, this is a good place. If you're going to be in law enforcement, this is where you would want to be. You know, this is a community that supports you. It's, you know, you've got a decent cost of living, etc. So I think that we need to continue to drive home those narratives to help retain and recruit people better.
And ideally, we want people from Kern County because they stay here. When you recruit someone to go to your academy and they live in LA, a year after they get to the academy, they're gone to another agency. So it's a complex issue.
I hear everything that you're saying, but we're here now. And I have seen a tremendous decline in sheriff's abilities here. I'm not blaming any one person. We have a bad situation, and it continues daily.
Not to put him on the spot, but I think the lieutenant would tell you firsthand that he agrees with you. You know,
no, I know.
We all do.
Oh, trust me, I understand that. We all want the same thing, but I'm living in this environment on a daily basis, as is the sheriff, and I constantly see posts about people saying, just the most recent one, a kid was hit by a car, and they called and didn't get a response. So I'm concerned, and maybe they didn't call, I don't know, I was reading it. So I'm not blaming you, please don't think I'm blaming you.
That wouldn't be ours anyway, that would be CHP, but...
Yeah, but I mean, there's just a lot of strange things that are going on, and one thing I didn't hear, and I'll throw it out here, and if everybody is against what I'm gonna say, they can, but we had an influx of Section 8 housing as well. There was a shooting over there a couple years back, there's all kinds of stuff going on there. So, it's...
The proximity to Lancaster is problematic for Rosamond. There's absolutely no question.
Well...
And what people tend to do is move where there's not law enforcement. Bad people. Because they can do basically whatever they want.
But there used to be more presence here, so I don't think
Right.
that was... I mean, I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, and there's another issue that I think needs to be thrown out here, and I don't know if that's going to affect us, and then I'll get off my soapbox, because I'm sure there's a lot of other questions. I heard recently that Rex Paris had taken, I don't know how much money for the city of Lancaster to transition some of those hotels along Sierra Highway for homeless housing. And what I want to know is that Rosamond isn't looking to do anything like that out here, because, I mean, we've got enough problems with homeless in our little town.
Just, you know, 30,000 foot view, there are directives that come down from the state that require us to do housing in a lot of different forms. Some of what's being talked about are not entry-level housing. It's going to be market rate housing, but it is. But yes, I mean, is there a push right now for more housing in Eastern Kern? There will be. It's going to require us to be very thoughtful about where we site those. So I can't speak to Lancaster, but it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, it just opened my eyes a little bit.
It's,
They're
you know,
bringing them out from
it's
LA.
all in the, you know, it's all under the, you know, the effort to provide more housing for people because, you know, some folks think that's why we have so many homeless. That's not my opinion, but
Nor mine.
that's some people.
Nor mine.
So where do the jobs come then if they bring all these people?
Yeah, good question. I mean, obviously we have wraparound services that we try to provide when folks do make contact with our in-street navigation center in Bakersfield and also our outreach programs that we have out here in Eastern Kern. Try to get people connected with employment, try to get them connected with substance abuse or mental health services, whatever it is, housing vouchers, etc. But it's requiring, and boy, I know Cindy and Donnie could speak to this a lot better than me, but it's finding people who want those services. Do they want what you're trying to provide? You know, usually takes, I don't know, 5 or 6 times or more for them to, you know, for them to want
Is
to
importing
accept
a
it.
population into a community this size that has a higher proportion of substance abuse problems and mental health issues, that's devastating.
It is, and I think that a lot of what causes the importation is the cost of housing. When you have housing that's affordable, relatively speaking, then you're going to get more folks coming in to take advantage of that. I see that a lot in Mojave. I see that a lot in Boron. And probably Alice sees it too. You know, in dealing with code compliance. And so, yeah, there's a lot of social engineering that occurs in California, and some of these communities that have been around for a long time are seeing changes because of it.
You know, the state of California's solution to this homeless and drug issue is to build and house injection sites so people can go inject openly and safely. That's the biggest crock
They
ever.
do it in other countries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's not fixing the problem at all.
Well, we were downtown yesterday, and these two saw things that no one should ever see.
If you have not been to San Francisco
Well, we
lately,
went, yeah.
you walk down in San Francisco and you can find people injecting out in the open every other doorway. And that DA is about to get
And you don't want to go
recalled.
back. You know, once you've seen it, you don't want to go back.
Come Tuesday, I think that DA is going to be recalled.
That was
I
their
hope.
first time in San Francisco a year and a half ago. Girls want to go back.
But if you can imagine the people in San Francisco are going to recall a progressive prosecutor, they've had enough too. And I think that's what has to happen to turn this ship around.
But once the damage is done, you can't close that down.
There's no question about it.
I mean, I've heard stories about Mojave and also from people who were in Lancaster 30, 40 years ago. It is what it is now. You can't.
We have a homicide in Bakersfield every other day.
Right.
That's not the ones that shot and missed or injured. You weren't here, but we have 330 people in custody for murder or attempt murder in our county. That's a stunning number. We have 140 people waiting for a hospital bed because they're arrested on a crime, they have a severe mental health issue, and there's no hospital bed. There's no state hospital. They're never going to get a bed. So they do their time in jail until they get out, and what do you think happens?
Now, the other thing as far as me not being here, people are not hearing about these meetings. Like, I just heard about it 5 minutes before. I barely had time to get over here. I'm wondering how can these meetings become more publicized so people show up? Because I bet you there's a lot of people that have no idea what's going on.
Absolutely.
And if they knew,
I
this
told a
place
lot
would
of
be
people
jam-packed.
because they had never heard of it, and I think it is someone here in Rosamond that's trying to manage this, and I think they probably got their hands full. So,
We rely, Laura Lynn is my district director, and so she does I think a really good job trying to get stuff out on social media. But that's really our venue. You know, it's great having the Rosamond News here. So for the folks that didn't attend, they can hear something about it. But yeah, it's a challenge, you know, because there isn't really one great resource, sounding board to go to. So we just try to put it out in as many places as we can, and hope that folks show up. Although I would say probably if we were a little more diligent about doing something regular, that it would, you know, you could build on that versus, you know, one-off. And so I will commit to that, try to do something regular.
Well, I'll tell you, I saw it on Facebook. So people are spreading the news. I forwarded it to my friends on Facebook, but.
And I got it from the next door neighborhood.
Yep, yeah, it's been posted everywhere. Everywhere on social media, locally, it's been posted.
And if you have ideas about where we should put it, or if you could share it, you know, those are all very helpful. Yeah.
I have a question for Sheriff Finley, Jack. With the reduction in sheriff, has there been any significant marketing recruitment changes that you've employed to?
$25,000 signing bonus, $5,000 moving allowance. We're working on $2,000 house payment to live in the substation that you work. We're working with the county and Department of Justice to advertise throughout the state of California. You can go outside the state to recruit, but they have to go through our academy. It's not the same academy. So that's problematic just in itself. And we're marketing better than we ever have, but we're not having any great deal of success. We had 10 applicants that applied from LA County whenever they were required to get the shot. That kind of died down. Those 10 applicants either didn't pass the background or withdrew their application.
I was curious.
Yeah, we're not going to hire problematic officers. Yeah, we're just not.
I'm just curious if you have to change your marketing strategy significantly because of some of the issues.
Yeah, we're doing everything that we can think of to recruit people to come to work in law enforcement.
You know, and just about the shot, I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo the vaccine or anything. I just think, you know, you had so many officers and firefighters that were working on the front lines before there was a vaccine. They've probably already been infected, and, you know, the best data shows that you know, natural immunity is better than the vaccine, and so if they don't want to get the shot, they want to come to work, I'm all for it. But, you know,
Are they required?
we want good officers.
Is it mandatory?
Not for us. Not for us. It is.
I mean, I don't think it's mandatory for anybody.
Down south, they were talking about making it mandatory.
They were going to fire 4,000
yeah.
officers.
They've released military members.
They what?
They
Yes, for not
released
taking
military members
the
who
shot.
didn't get the vaccine. So I'm a government civilian. It was not mandatory for me, but.
Yeah, we don't require it to work in the sheriff's office or the fire department.
Okay.
I have a question for both of the sheriffs. Just the other day, I go out every day and I walk 3 or 4 miles around my area. And what is becoming a huge problem is street racing.
Oh, yeah, we've been here a long
Now,
time.
usually I hear it like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, something like that. This was at 9:45 in the morning. I was walking down 30th Street. 2 cars were racing. They were taking up both of the lanes, and they darn near hit a car that was coming around the corner.
Yeah.
If I'd have walked out in the street, I'd have been dead.
They're taking over streets in Bakersfield.
And this-
by the hundreds of
Well,
cars.
this
They're
is
using
these
social
type
media. They
shows.
set up an event, and when you get there, they scatter.
Well, yeah.
You know, and
I lived in San Diego.
and quite
for
frankly,
years.
that's a
Yeah.
CHP problem. But the CHP's down 1,000 officers. They
Yeah.
can't recruit either.
But I mean, now it's becoming to the point, if they're going to do it in the morning also, it's becoming a dangerous situation. Because there are a lot of us who get out in the morning and walk. We walk our dogs, you know, we walk ourselves. And it's becoming, if anybody would have been crossing that street, they would not have been here today.
Sheriff, are there any opportunities for grants for cameras for us to put up to try to capture any of these license plates?
We've entered into an agreement with Taser and flock cameras for 1 year for free. They're going to install them, or should be doing them within 90 days, and probably mainly in Bakersfield to see if they work. And what the flock cameras do is they record the license plate numbers of events that occur. And Stockdale Estates, they already have their own association with flock cameras that have been very successful. If they have a burglary, they go back to the flock cameras. They can tell every car that came in or left that area. And there are people that are fighting our ability to use those type of cameras, license plate readers.
Like ACLU.
It's pretty incredible. But that is a huge issue everywhere in the county. In
Well,
any intersection, Bakersfield, you can see the circles.
Yeah, no, that's not happening as far as them congregating in there. It's just individuals who are going out.
And just so
racing.
you have a real understanding, when we get there, if they flee, we don't chase them. We don't chase them because what they've done is a misdemeanor. If we chase them, they crash, there's $20 million of your taxpayer dollars are going to someone. So our policy is, if it's dangerous, we don't chase them. That's statewide. And if you chase them and caught them, you're gonna write them a ticket. That's what we're facing.
Spike strips.
Where
We
this hap-
need spike strips.
Where this happened with my wife,
Oops.
it's becoming more prevalent
Yeah.
because they're widening the streets over on the other
In the
side in the
West Park
residential
area.
area.
Make a nice raceway.
They're wide, some of the sections are wider than 14. And it's a residential area. You've got 2 lanes of traffic and there's enough room for 6. And where they're widening them, where the new houses are going in,
Yeah.
is where this racing is occurring. Why do the streets have to be 6 lanes wide? Or with room for 6 lanes?
Okay, and also, I
That-
don't understand.
I don't know, but I will ask our planning director.
And with this,
Right
where we are living, they recently built new houses. And what they did was they brought streets together. Well, at the end of the street, they just curved it around. I have seen whoever takes care of the fences that, fence the areas that are supposed to catch water. There's been like 3 or 4 times cars racing have gone into it.
Well, and to answer your question, we're not allowed by law to use spike strips for traffic violations.
Right.
That's a pretty serious event when you use spike strips.
I think that if I can add to what she's saying, part of the concern, and somebody mentioned it, speed bumps. I mean, can we get Kern County roads out here to take a look at some of this stuff and see about maybe putting speed bumps in those areas, like in front of the high school?
Yes, you can.
That would be helpful.
It's not real popular for the roads department to put in speed bumps. It requires property owners to sign off on it. There's issues with the fire engines as they're responding, going over them. But it doesn't. I'm not saying it's impossible. It does happen, but it's not an automatic yes. You have to go through a process and get, I want to say 60+% of the property owners to buy off on doing it, around that range. But it would be more than happy to help start that conversation and get you everything you would need to do it. But it's not as easy as it sounds.
Because I know my husband and I lived in San Diego. I was born and raised there. And they went around quite a few years ago and did all kinds of residential streets and put these speed bumps in them. And I can tell you that it definitely cut down on the racing that was going on.
What we really need is legislation that makes that an offense where the car is impounded and kept.
See, in San Diego it is.
Well, I would disagree with you, but.
My son's car was.
It's 30 days.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
the
gotta
penalty
keep it
is
30 days.
But, it's, second offense, you'll lose your car. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No,
Kill
that's the
somebody.
best thing that can be done, but we don't have the ability to have the sheriffs there that when we see this, or it is going on.
If we have a deputy in Tehachapi and we get that call, he's not coming to that call. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell you.
Oh, he would make it.
Well, he's just not coming to that call. There's
So,
higher priority.
basically,
That's
the
not our job
community's
anyway, that's
held
CEP
hostage.
job. We're having enough problems doing our own job. We're having enough problems responding to our own.
But
Ma'am, if I
basically,
can
we're held
interrupt.
hostage by
Have
the
you,
racers.
have you spoken with the highway patrol about your concern?
Yeah, we have. You stopped one time. And he-
Yeah, I talked to one about,
And he said it's not their problem.
Well,
it's
They're
not a high
city
priority.
streets.
let me throw this out there real quick.
That's
Just
not
like-
true.
Yeah,
That
just
was
like-
the answer
Our
I
city
got.
streets in Rosamond.
That was the answer I got, it's not a high priority.
And
Just-
he also said at the time that it was Rosamond sheriffs that needed to handle that because they were city streets.
Just like everyone here has me as their lieutenant, everyone here has the highway patrol lieutenant as their lieutenant. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with calling on during business hours of highway patrol and asking to speak with their sergeant.
Well, they're very good about responding, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I even do it on Facebook.
The Lieutenant Mojave's Pagano, she's really an effective, smart lady. In fact, they were at our last meeting in Boron.
Yeah, unfortunately, she was ill today, so she couldn't make it.
So what is the code as far as, because we hear I call them muffler crew, all night long. Is there a noise ordinance that actually covers this area, or are they free to make as much noise as they want?
Noise ordinance is very difficult to enforce because how loud is too loud? And I mean, it's just very. Yeah, we have explosions in Bakersfield every night. And I'm not talking about fireworks. I'm talking about explosions. These big M80s that they're setting off. And I mean, there's no enforcement. I mean, we've stopped enforcing the law because we have no place to put them. We give them a ticket and they don't appear.
So let me ask you, if that's the case, and I've heard that in LA County too, from the sheriffs who are honest. If someone comes onto private individual property, or we see them stealing our property, and we intervene because you guys can't make it in time. From what I've heard, some states and some jurisdictions hold someone who's intervening liable for it, and I've heard them.
You have to be cautious of what you do when someone's stealing your property. If they're kicking your front door in the middle of the night, that's a totally different scenario than stealing your property. The best advice I can give you if they're stealing your property is everybody has a camera. Take pictures. They don't want their picture. They're going to leave and you start taking their picture. Don't get into physical confrontation because it might go south on you. And it's not worth losing your life over.
Right. There's been so many of these, I've seen it on Rosamond, mufflers being stolen for the
Catalytic converters. They stole a bunch of them at Rosamond High School one day.
Yeah.
They had an event this morning. I'll let Cindy talk about it because it's her dinner.
Yeah, we partnered with Supervisor Scrivener this morning at a business on Sierra Highway to etch people's license plate number on the catalytic converter.
You guys know
and
Mario
spray paint.
Gutierrez?
Yep.
Yeah.
And spray paint. We're doing those catalytic converter prevention type events. And we've done them in Boron, East Bakersfield. We're going to try to get them in every town in Kern County.
I mean, the post office has the same issue too with mailboxes.
Being broken.
We have
into.
another working too. That's a significant.
Yeah.
But we're
Well, my
also
neighbor
trying.
found out we had one lady who ordered from Albertsons, and it was stolen off her porch. So she reordered it, and that one was also stolen off her porch.
There's a lot of porch pirates, but getting back to the catalytic converter, it was also like when someone was caught with 3 or 4 catalytic converters, there was a time we just let everyone go because how could you prove where the catalytic converter came from? Who's the victim? When your license number is etched on that, then we can link it with the victim, but we also are changing the way we prosecute those cases now. We're calling an expert witness in to talk about if you have 3 catalytic converters in your car, and they are cut in such a way that a professional mechanic would not have cut them. The possessor of those catalytic converters must know that they are stolen. So we're beginning prosecutions of those. And that's something that we haven't done before. So we're doing that now. And hopefully it'll make a difference.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead. Oh,
How
I
does
just had
gas
a
dome
question.
affect I heard that some neighboring counties, district attorneys were filing something with the state, showing a vote of no confidence in gas domes being the district attorney of Los Angeles. And I don't know if Kern County is on board with that or not.
Well, your DA in Kern County is on board with removing gas gone. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've been speaking about that.
I'll throw my name in the hat too. Okay. Yeah, of course.
What's going on right there is a recall. You have to be a Los Angeles resident to sign the recall. You need 560,000 votes, signatures, and then I think they will make it, and then his name will be on the ballot, probably in November for recall.
That's different than what I heard. I heard it was actually a thing that district attorneys could do at the state level. The district attorneys from surrounding counties, the actual attorneys themselves, went to their bar organization, whatever they're part of.
He's an elected official, so they can't remove him.
No, it can't be removed, and also your state attorney general is a man named Rob Bonta, who has the same philosophy as George Gascon, so that's not going to happen as far as the He was appointed by Gavin Newsom.
I have a question about motorhomes being parked on the street forever. Is there no limit on time? I mean, I'm used to 72 hours, and then they're supposed to be off or moved.
That's an out question.
So if it's on the street, it is 72 hours. And since it's on the street, it's going to be sheriff or highway patrol that can respond to that. They can put a tag on it and have it removed 72 hours after their tag, I believe.
That is correct. There's some restrictions on that, but
Yeah.
go ahead.
If it's on private property, somebody living in it, then that is a code issue. But an RV parked out on the street would be a police matter.
The only problem I have though is the one that's by my house, and he parks this huge fifth wheel on the road. And then he'll open his fold-outs. And they hang over the sidewalk, they hang out into the street. And it's dangerous for cars going around because they can't see around it. And then they have to swerve into the other lane to get around the pullout that's out.
Does he live over there, or he's just parking?
He's still parking.
Have you tried talking to him?
Yes.
Ma'am, what I recommend is specifically with your situation, is you have a lot of issues in your immediate neighborhood. Monday morning, call the sheriff's office and ask to speak with Sergeant Smith. Okay, he'll listen to your concerns and he'll help you come up with a plan. It's probably going to involve working with code enforcement and the highway patrol, but really that's the only way those things are done. So if you can't do it cordially between your neighbors, then I mean, really the last thing you want to do is get law enforcement. You don't always want to hammer to solve a problem.
Right.
But we have a lot of experience in dealing with neighbor conflicts and stuff like that. It may take them a while to get back to you, but
Sure.
that'd probably be your best way.
Okay.
I have a question for code enforcement. I call in a lot of issues, and I never know really when I'm ever going to get an answer. So I've suggested this before, at least acknowledging that I have sent a request, and it take 30 days to resolve or 60 days to resolve, or let me know what is happening. I have repeatedly asked to have 20th Street cleaned up here from all the homeless before the walk road got finished. I sent pictures twice and still have not got any results, and that's been over 2 months. So
Yes, and that one is at the end. I'm familiar with it. It should be cleaned up probably in the next week or so. But to answer your question, how can you, get an update?
yeah,
We don't call our Ps back. I mean, we handle about 3,000 cases a year. But if you call in, anybody should be able to look up where we're at on a case. Obviously, I'll give you my card. You can call me directly. I'd be glad to give you the information.
and I do know the CHP, I have called in cars a lot, but they have expired license plates or they're just rusting on the street, and they are like this, picking that stuff up. So I gotta hand it to them, so really proud of it.
And I do want to add for code compliance, it's not a matter of running out and handling something immediately. We can't do that. We're obligated by law to give notification to property owners, give them the opportunity to clean it up. Then we can respond once they ignored our notices. But we also have to notify all lien holders. Sometimes there's a change of ownership in the middle of a case where we have to start the process over. But again, we try to get to the issues and resolve issues as soon as we can.
That's actually what I'm looking for. Is there a timetable? You can send me that. I'll give you a call.
Yeah, give me a call.
Maybe I can work that out. Like, okay, I called on this date and this is what's going on.
Understood.
So it's not me. Okay, thank you.
I have a few questions.
Lisa, go ahead.
Okay, first is for Nick. I know that, Lisa Checkley, by the way. I know that you guys were given money for another shelter or to expand because of our shelter was closed in Mojave. So I guess my question would be, when do you plan on opening another shelter in East Kern? Because when I get 50 calls a day about lost dogs in Rosamond, fill up my car because I'm an animal transporter, take them all to Bakersfield, everybody looks at me like I'm crazy. I can't continue to do that because the gas price is $7 a gallon. So when are you going to open up something in East Kern for us to be able to go to?
Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to about money that was given to us to open a shelter. The Mojave shelter. I'm sorry?
I can look it up for you because I was there that day. It was done.
The Mojave shelter was a complex issue. You know, we had a lease at the Mojave Air and Spaceport, and that lease, and I'm not being facetious, it cost the department $240 a year to lease that property. I don't know if you've been out to that area recently, but there's a lot of high dollar tenants in those areas. And it was kind of comical the last year we were there to see Virgin Galactic with a giant building, and then UAB with another giant building, and then a tiny little animal shelter that was right in between. So they had, and I can't argue with them, they did
They
not
wanted their
have.
space, I get it.
Yeah, they didn't have much
I
interest
get that,
in.
but we do need
So-
a shelter.
So there was a lot of conversation about relocating us on the base. It's always been a concern of theirs because folks will drive out to that shelter after hours, they'll dump dogs sometimes, and then the dogs are on the runway, and that's a huge federal issue. But there was conversation early on about relocating on the air and spaceport. You know, I never want to shove everything on the pandemic, but a lot of our inability to relocate in Mojave was a result of the pandemic, and revenues, licensing revenues declining. So closing that facility, there was a plan in place prior to March of 2020. We were looking at alternate sites. Personally, as a director of animal services, Zach and I have talked about this. I would be the first person that would tell you, yes, I need an animal shelter right here. Not only is it important for you to be able to get resources, but my officers that are transporting animals from East Kern all the way into Bakersfield, it makes no sense, because if you're looking for your lost dog,
Right.
the last thing you're gonna know, A, and want to do, B, is drive 60 miles to go look for your lost dog that you might not even know if it's there or not. So the county is putting pressure on me to locate an animal shelter out here, because a lot of folks that are traveling through, if they're finding lost animals, they pick them up and they're looking for the nearest animal shelter and they're driving to Lancaster.
The locals take them to Lancaster,
So-
it's easier.
Yeah, also, Lisa, I would tell you that, you know, I don't think that Nick and I have landed on the same page on whether or not it should be in Mojave or it should be in Tehachapi, just simply because you have two things to consider. Logistically, for his officers, I think Mojave maybe makes more sense, but if you're looking to get more adopted, Tehachapi maybe makes more sense because more population. And so I think that Nick and I are just trying to figure out, when we do cobble together enough money, where it ought to go. The airport has been very open with ideas about other locations on the airport property that aren't on a flight line, you know, where they don't have a more lucrative contract. But I'm just not sure yet where it ought to go. But we both know we need to do it, and we need to get off the dime and make it happen. But his staffing issues just kind of created a perfect storm in a way where, you know, we closed it and had more than one reason to.
It's just been 2 years of craziness in
Right.
Rosamond and Mojave. I think also Mojave too, and all the rescues were so full. It's like, what do we do?
Maybe
So-
Nick and I ought to say, look, well, in the next 12 months, let's get it figured out.
Yeah, and when the conversation does happen, and, you know, I included some references to that in our justification letter for our 22-23 budget, which neither here nor there, but that there is a significant need for an animal shelter in this area. There's a number of issues that start backing up and priorities get pushed around. Our Bakersfield shelter is breaking down, and really at the expense of the lives of the animals that are coming into that facility. And you know, we're needing to really, it's becoming more and more important to relocate and build a new animal shelter in Bakersfield, because animals are losing their lives because of it. And the last thing I also want to do is, if I had my druthers, I do not want to consider an animal shelter for East Kern that is shoehorned into an existing building like we've done in Bakersfield. It worked, thankfully, for a period of time, but for this area, for Rosamond, the Mojave, the East Kern area, it needs to be new construction that can meet the needs of the community. I don't really have much of an interest, and it won't be entirely up to me. I don't have much of an interest in finding an existing building and trying to make it into an animal shelter, because it causes problems for the health and welfare of the animals. But it's definitely a priority for me. You know, we'll continue to work at solutions. We've had conversations with Cal City about partnering to offer services to the residents out here. Cost was an issue for them, it was an issue for us, but I'm aware. I wish I had some more concrete news for you right now, but just know that it's not.
I'm sorry, I thought you said Cal City cost was an issue?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I heard that right.
Well, their ability to house more animals in their existing facility was a cost issue.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
But it's
Do you use other animal places? I know there's a lot of people who have animals, they're on their own, or wherever they can pick up animals. Could you contract with them until you get something resolved?
Are you talking about like making use of
Their facility?
Rescues.
like
or something.
nonprofit rescues?
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough scenario to come into because they're county property at that point when they come to an animal shelter, and there's some liability concerns for private property. We have made use of sort of fostering-based sheltering before, which is an option, but the capacity of rescues, both in the East Kern area and in Bakersfield, are very limited. And there are some trends that are happening in animal welfare where there's stagnancy in nonprofits. They're not able to find homes for the animals that are already there. So they don't have space as well. But yeah, it's an ongoing conversation. But it's a priority of mine to locate an animal shelter right here for a number of different reasons.
Okay.
And that question also goes for the highway patrol or sheriff. Is there some way we can help you as, help just do something for this issue? Like, I know when John was still on duty, he asked if there were some older people that wouldn't mind just sitting in a black and white car at the end of some streets. So, just asking that question.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Reserve sheriffs is what she's asking for.
Okay, reserve police officers in the state of California must go through the same 6-month academy as a regular police officer. Full-time, 6 months. We used to have 450 reserves in Kern County. Today we have 18. 2 years from now, we won't have any.
Could we try
Is that
and
the same
get
the state
neighborhood
parks goes
watches
through?
up?
I'm sorry.
Could we try and get neighborhood watches up? You know, the sheriff department usually initiates those.
We have a neighborhood watch group that will be happy to come out and put on a presentation.
That'd be great.
Show you how to do that.
I think people would appreciate
They
it.
were actually
Yeah.
at the last Farmac meeting, and I was doing a presentation exactly on that.
We have citizen volunteers, requires that you be a part of the department, that are the eyes and ears of the organization. They drive a car that says Kern County Sheriff, you've probably seen them. Most of them are elderly. We don't want them getting involved in a confrontation. All they are is eyes and ears, and they can then call us if there's they see something.
Is that the same training the Rangers go through, or state park?
Are you talking about park rangers or your county or federal?
State.
Yeah, we don't have anything to do with state park rangers.
Folks, I want to, Cindy broached the subject a little bit ago. I would like to come back on it as long as everybody here feels like they want to. Do we want to talk about the dispensaries on Diamond Street, et cetera? Okay. So we've been just playing a real frustrating game of whack-a-mole for a long, long time with them. But the DA's office and county council and the sheriff and my office and county administrative office have been having conversations recently about maybe some new strategies that will help in holding the property owners accountable. So, DA Zimmerich, would you be happy to start us off here?
It's illegal in unincorporated Kern. Can you hear me okay in the back? You can use the mic. It's illegal in unincorporated Kern, which Rosamond is, to have a marijuana dispensary. It's against the law. So every one of these that are operating, they're operating illegally. The Sheriff's Department has been very aggressive over the years of taking down these shops, getting search warrants, arresting people, removing their product. Oftentimes there are guns, cocaine, different things in these pot shops. They have been a terrible source. I can't speak to Rosamond necessarily, but throughout unincorporated Kern, even places where gang members meet and get in fights and commit robberies. They've just been a source of a lot of calls for service, violent crime. We have prosecuted people for these dispensaries, and the penalty, because of AB 109, is the county jail. So crime pays for many of these people. Also, it's difficult to determine who really is running the pot shop, because we have a lot of people, cartels from out of town, who are really the money people behind it. So it's been frustrating for many years. They're also getting better regarding making money drops, because we can go in and seize their money. But they make money drops on the hour, they're couriers. It's a very sophisticated business now. So we've moved on, and we're trying this approach. Since it is illegal in Kern County, but legal in other parts of the state, specifically Los Angeles County, to have dispensaries, to have illegal ones, it is an unlawful business practice under the Business and Professions Code. We have prosecutors in our office that are civil prosecutors, so we can prosecute people under that code for unlawful business practice. That carries tremendous fines. So we've started on a case in which the Sheriff's Department has gone through several times and made busts in there of an illegal pot shop. We've started in Bakersfield, and we are going after the owners of the property who continue to rent to pot shops. We send them notices. You are hereby unnoticed that you have rented to an illegal pot shop. And right now it's our test case. We're seeing how it went. We have prosecuted this property owner civilly, and we got a $3 million judgment. So right now that is under review. You say, well, what are you going to do with that? Well, we want to put a lien on the property and take it. So we're going after them financially. We'll see how this goes. The case is under review right now for a judge, but if that is successful, we're going to start that process. So for property owners in Rosamond that are knowingly renting to illegal dispensaries, you should be aware that it is my hope as district attorney that I can come put you out of business by taking your property and having it go to the county of Kern.
How long do you think it'll take?
Well, that's a good question, but it's not going to be quick, and I can't talk about it in too much specific detail because it may be going on right now. But there's aspects of it that are covert, but I hope within the next few months we're going to be able to really see some results. We want them out of here.
I mean, you mentioned you couldn't really speak to Rosamond. I believe at one point in time there was more than 20 dispensaries.
Yeah, we got it up to 20 at one point.
I mean the violent crime,
Oh,
whether
I see.
murders
Okay.
have occurred in your
Yeah.
parking lots. In Bakersfield, we have gang members smoke pot every day. They're not gainfully employed. They smoke pot every day. And so they are going to these pot shops, and then rival gangs run into each other at the pot shops, and they shoot each other. Whether or not that occurs in Rosamond, I have to defer to the lieutenant here. I don't know. I will tell you this, gang members from Lancaster come up here and commit crime. And it is, even though there are legal pot shops in some parts of Los Angeles County, the illegal pot shops, the price of their dope is cheaper. So even where they are legal, they're still putting in illegal pot shops.
Yeah, I know the sheriff, he dissuaded us from legalizing these shops from the very beginning, and I think rightfully so, because the illegal ones operate right alongside the legal ones, and it undercuts the market. They can't compete price-wise, and so the legal ones go out of business. The model doesn't work. This whole idea that you can legalize it and tax it and use it for enforcement, it hasn't worked anywhere in the state. The state's talking about reducing the fees, the taxes on them. I think the whole thing is just a house of cards that fell apart.
And then when you have gangs involved in that type of activity, they're not paying their taxes. They're criminals. And we don't have a gang task force in the county any longer. We had 18 deputies in the gang task force. They're all wearing a uniform, responding to 911 calls. And we would close pot shops in Bakersfield. The truck to reopen would be sitting across the street before we even left.
Sarah, I'll ask this. She mentioned she didn't think there was gangs. I watched an online meeting, and I believe Bakersfield is some kind of commission. they were given a presentation of some of the tagging that was behind the mobile home parks. And some of those are actually from the San Fernando Valley. And they were operating north of the county line to make it harder for whatever they were doing for law enforcement to become aware of what they were doing.
There's a lot more tagging going on here.
Yeah.
But they had definitely identified some of the tags were actually from the San Fernando Valley, or some of the Lancaster. So
It's hard to, I'm not an expert in graffiti, lighting strokes, imagination, but you get a lot of copycats, wannabe gang members to spray paint as if they are something that they're not. But they do tag their areas, and the gangs do, and there's a purpose behind that.
Right. I will say something about tagging. If you can get citizens engaged, people to volunteer to go cover it up, that's the best thing you can do. I mean, it does dissuade them, they do move away. The graffiti gangs become real gangs eventually.
Rosamond Community Service does that here.
Yeah, they do, but they could probably use the help from, the average everyday citizen, because we do it too. The county does it. It's just 8,200 square miles for us to, do all the tags, but getting it painted over or removed immediately is the best thing you can do. But I know it requires a lot of work from volunteers, which is a drag, but it does make a big impact.
Now, you brought up a great point that puts things really in perspective. If you look at the Bakersfield City, the police department, they have the same number of officers as we have deputies. They patrol 144 square miles. We patrol 8,139 square miles. So what makes our county great also makes it very difficult to police and provide fire service.
So kind of off that subject, but something that I was kind of surprised to learn is, and I understand this, when one of my neighbors had one of his windows been busted out by a bullet, it became very clear to us that it came from over the hill where people go up and shoot on their own makeshift firing ranges. And I have seen, because I did my own research, YouTube videos and others of people coming up from LA saying, yep, you get off here at this exit, now you take the frontage road, you get off at Rosamond and you drive on up. So, I mean, yeah, it happens a lot. So, I mean, I can hear them where I live, and I'm just past the high school, and I can hear them shooting up there on the weekends.
I
and
saw them
stuff.
off Avenue A right off 14 one day.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I guess my question, clearly we should report those things, but I mean, are you guys going to go barreling in where people are heavily armed and shooting? I don't know.
Yeah,
You know.
Al will.
Right on, Al.
Yeah.
I'll call you.
I'm joking, but Al has been well involved in probably that exact site that you're talking about. One of the issues, if it wasn't fenced, we'd have to require they were fenced.
Yeah, and the
so-
owners aren't going to fence it.
Yeah, so we really dug into this, and it just kind of came up with really a logger jam. But if you want to elaborate at all, but that was really what it came down to. Is that since it wasn't fenced, it was really difficult for us to enforce it.
Yeah, we identified over 100 ways to get into the area, just in and around Rosamond. And I don't know, this has been going on for the last at least 18 years, maybe more, where people go there and shoot. We even ran into a group of highway patrolmen that were out there shooting. They thought it was BLM land.
Yeah, they thought it was.
Yeah, right, but it's private property. We did make contact with the owners. The owners did put up no trespassing signs. But again, there are over 100 ways to get in there. I don't think a fence would be very effective. It's easy to cut a fence, steal a fence, and sell it. Right. So that is a challenge.
But did we talk about signage? Like if the owner put up signage?
They did put up, yeah, they did that.
Yeah.
We have budget hearings. We have budget hearings every year. I encourage you all to come to budget hearings. Let the board, not just Zach, but all 5 board members know what your priority is. Because there's a lot of things that you aren't even aware of that we all compete for that bottom dollar. I'm also the coroner. I'm paying $120,000 a month to move bodies back and forth to Laredo where we store bodies. Because the coroner's office can only hold 30, we have 180 dead people all the time. And I'm trying to build a new coroner's office. So we're all competing for that dollar, and it's important that you all air what is most important to you.
And his ask isn't that sexy, you know?
No, it's hard to ask for a place to store dead people. It really is. But we have transport that goes back and forth to our jail at Laredo every day, and the bill last month was $117,000 because just to move them out there and put them in a trailer where we have a cooler, so we can get the autopsy done, and I mean it's.
That's just inmates?
No, that's that's grandma.
I see.
You know, I use that because people go, well, grandma's stored at Laredo. Yeah, we could. Charlie Manson. We kept Charlie Manson at Laredo for a long time.
Wow. What was the bill on that?
I don't even know what the bill was. Yeah. What was really important with Charlie Manson was keeping 2 body bags on him with 2 separate locks, because guess what? Everybody wanted to take a picture of dead Charlie Manson. I'm going, really?
That's
Did anyone comment on the garbage dumpers?
Legal dumping?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't bring anybody with me from the roads specifically, but Al handles a lot with code compliance as far as our illegal dumping teams. We've actually ramped up a lot in the last, I'd say, I don't know, 8-9 months or so financially to do more. Our rapid teams, that's our tagline for it. But I would just say, notify us, let us know where it is, and we'll get out there. If we don't know about it, then we can't do anything about it. But we have a lot more resources in place now, and it's because all of you are paying more on your taxes. I think it's about $28 a year. So you're all funding more effort.
So is it mostly LA County folks dumping, or is it?
I don't think so.
It's Bakersfield. You go to Highway 5899, it's
everywhere.
We see a lot of it out here.
We have
Instead
pigs
of
that live
driving
in
to
our
dump, they just go out in the desert and do it.
Yeah,
they dump on the road to the dump.
yeah.
Right.
So it's really,
We call it taking a dump at the dump.
yeah, it's odd. It's odd. But just let us know, and we can usually get out there and deal with it. Any other words of wisdom?
Yeah, anything along the roadways is handled by the rapid teams. It's, a big dumping site on private property would be handled through code compliance.
So there
But
is a-
it's just a matter of us knowing about it and we can do something.
Yeah. Just like intersections or geolocation.
Again, in any right of way, the rapid teams would handle it.
I have a question. Thank you all for being here, first of all.
Thank you.
And my question is, what can be done about these guys with all these off-road vehicles that have going on for a long time, running through our neighborhoods? Where I live at, it's right near where your substation used to be. I've got videos, tons of videos showing these guys doing what they're doing. Almost hitting cars, sliding around the corners. I try to find out where they live at. They're so fast, I can't catch up with them. But I know, is that a highway patrol issue? Or is that a combined issue with the sheriff's department?
So, sir, that issue you're talking about is the same issue I dealt with in 2008, and probably the same issue the sheriff dealt with in 1979.
That's forever.
And the reality is, most of those people,
And I apologized.
believe it or not, are children. And I don't know if there's one single solution to get rid of OHVs, because that's a problem that's always going to exist, just like there's always going to be a problem with people who
They won't stop, and we don't chase them.
Yeah, your best bet is working with the highway patrol to mitigate it as much as possible. That's really your best bet.
I've seen one time the sheriff showed up, actually was there, and I was yelling at one of these guys, and they came around and stopped them. But it's hard to be there when they do it.
You're right, yeah.
That is pretty hard to do. And then, if they take off, you're gonna be compromised because they got an off-road vehicle and you don't.
Yeah, and we don't want to wad up a vehicle that
No,
you
we
need.
don't. That's another issue. Where we're going to get cars at, patrol cars. I mean, you can't get cars there. So we're going to struggle with that.
They used to have a team here, remember Pin Gillies?
Oh, yeah.
They chased them people.
They had trailer and everything.
Yeah, you don't chase them in today's world, or you just write a big check.
Donnie or Lieutenant, I mean, are cameras effective at all? Like if they've got them on their properties? You know, I don't know how good the resolution's gonna be to catch that little
You have to
license
cite them,
plate.
you have to see
They
what
have
they're
to
doing
have
to
a
cite
plate
them.
on
You can't cite someone for.
They're not
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah.
They're not licensed, I guess.
They're supposed to have a small plate, but I don't know.
A lot of
I'm
them, they're supposed
wondering if that's even worth trying.
A misdemeanor must occur in your presence to make an arrest.
Okay.
I have a question. Right. We have a problem with Big Rig on our street. It's not on the street. They're parking it on, you know, how there's empty lots. So right at the end of our street, there's a big empty lot. And I looked up if somebody actually owned that property, and there's only 2 small properties on the other end of that lot. So it's not owned by anyone as far as I can see. Like I went to the to look up all the properties and stuff. So that's my question. Who handles that?
Yes, so commercial truck parking in a residential district is prohibited. There are some ministerial permits that the planning department does give out for parcels that are 1 acre or more. But in a regular neighborhood, it's generally prohibited. So if we are given a location, we can work on that.
Oh, okay. I feel a little bad because it's the person's livelihood, but I'm sure they can rent someplace to put that.
It's a very common problem, especially like around Bakersfield. People don't want to pay for truck parking, so they park
Yeah.
around the neighborhoods.
We deal with a lot of it, but it is a nuisance. It's, you know, the noise, the emissions, you know, so you shouldn't have to put up with it.
And it looks bad.
Yeah.
I mean, right at the end of our street, there's a big.
Yeah, and those guys get early starts, so we get a lot of complaints. You know, 4 in the morning, they're out there.
Yeah.
I have a question for Scrivener.
Yeah, Jack.
What is your vision within the next 5 years of, for, and for Rosamond?
Well, I think the main thing for us to continue to do as a county, and that's going to be, you know, with all due respect, you know, Donnie and also Cindy, all the board members, we have to continue to push back on this narrative that oil is going away. If oil goes away for the county, it's going to devastate all of our budgets. There are economic diversification efforts that we continue to explore, meaning we're looking at carbon sequestration, carbon capture. Basically, you're pulling carbon out of the air and you're putting it down in the geological formations. Geological formations, you know, where oil had been extracted in the past. We are, you know, we're working to get the Tone Indian Casino open, which is going to be 400 permanent jobs. You know, lots of revenue for sheriff, lots of revenue for fire, things like that. You know, renewable energy, I know, is a mixed bag around here. I get that. We have to get a lot more scrutinizing as far as where we're going to allow these to site in the future. But when they're doing the battery storage, it makes a big difference as far as revenue is concerned. I'll give you an example. The solar field that we permitted in Boron is $2 million a year in property tax because it has battery storage. That's more than the Amazon distribution center does in Bakersfield. And so, you know, so those do make a difference. And, you know, Donnie and I were at a forum in Boron, and you know, some folks were not happy about a solar project, but you know, the fact of the matter is that if the governor Newsom kills oil in this county, then we're going to have to be scrambling to find other ways to replace it. So I'm of the mindset we don't give up, we continue to fight because we do it the safest and the cleanest of anywhere in the world. Our process is sound. I don't know why you would want to bring oil in from Ecuador, which the communist Chinese are actually the ones producing that, or from Russia, that's using that revenue to, you know, carry out a war in Ukraine. We should produce it here, where we support the county of Kern with $80 million a year in property tax. The schools, $108 million a year in property tax from the oil industry. Special districts is another $12 million a year. So why the governor would not want us to produce it here, where we do it the cleanest and the safest, and we provide all these jobs and all this tax revenue, to me it's unconscionable. It's to promote a political agenda that I can't fully understand. But really, we're in a fight for our survival. We're in a fight for our survival when it comes to public safety. We're in a fight for our survival when it comes to our economic engines. And all of us in Kern County, I think, need to really stick together and talk about these things day in and day out. Because I know my kids are going to school and they're getting taught that oil is a bad thing. And if they're getting taught that, then they sure as heck are getting taught that in San Francisco. So those are things I think we all need to be real worried about. What is Kern County's future? Our agriculture industry, probably a third of our farmland is going to be fallowed because of the water cutbacks. You saw the adjudication that's happened here. The same thing is occurring through these groundwater management acts all throughout the state. These are our biggest industries for Kern that are getting hit. And you folks over here, and believe me, I hear you. Why does Bakersfield get everything? We don't get anything. It's going to get even worse when all these major industries are going to continue to get impacted as far as the perception that we're not getting our fair share. I believe you are, and we can disagree on that. But once those west side oil fields dry up, then you're not going to see anywhere near the kinds of services you see on the east side of this county. I mean, that's just a fact. And so we all have to fight for it. We all need to stick together. And I think we do. I think we've done a good job at it. But it's I don't think that they say this election is the most important election we're ever going to have in our lifetime. It feels like that every time because it really is. It is it is getting to the point where there's an existential threat that we face from Sacramento. They don't like us in Kern County. We're a resource-based economy. We're oil, we're ag, we're minerals, we're aerospace and defense, and those kinds of industries just aren't important to people that live in the Bay Area.
I love that they dumped, from what I read, 80 billion gallons of water into the bay to save some delta smelt that the study showed wasn't actually impacting the survival.
They did. They did, and they do. And really what it is it's the Sacramento's sewer wastewater plant, the nitrate levels that it's putting into the bay. It's killing off the phytoplankton that the smelt live on. So one kind of phytoplankton is thriving, the other kind is dying. And that's what's really messing up the whole ecosystem. But that costs money. And so they're not doing it. They'd rather cut the farmer's water.
I have one more thing to say.
Yeah, Lisa.
I just want to thank you for getting the money that you got for our parks, and our pool, and our skate park.
It was about time, anything?
And yes, we've been working on it for 4 years. So I just want to publicly thank you for that.
Thanks, Lisa.
I appreciate it. I'm so excited. So excited.
I am too.
So, yes.
We had to go a long time without making those kinds of investments, and so we got a big grant from the state for Mojave, but that created, I think, some momentum where we can do some other things for everybody. So I think pretty much everybody's getting something good.
I mean, it was $9 million.
Yeah, 8.7.
Okay.
8.7.
A lot. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
So our pool
Thank
will
you.
be done this next year, you guys, and so will our
Yep.
skate park.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
We're doing it. Yeah, that's good. I want to thank all of you, first of all, for coming and your level of interest. Thank you for all, being so polite and cordial. I know that you're super frustrated about all this stuff. So are we. It is a fact of life right now in California. But I do feel like we are turning the corner. I don't know, if it's going to be a year or if it's 2 years, but I feel like we are turning the corner.
Yeah, I think it's important that when you leave here, you realize
whichever agency it is, you should get a call back. If you don't get a call back from my agency, I want to hear about it. I get emails, and I return those emails and those calls every single day. I can't do all of them. I refer them to staff because that's what their job is. But just getting the call back is half the battle. If you ignore people, they're going to assume that, rightfully so, you're not doing your job. So if you don't hear from us when you want to contact, you have a lieutenant, you have a sergeant, and ultimately you have the sheriff. And I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
I'd like to add to that. You go to Rosamond residents, all you can do is easy peasy looking at things like that on Facebook.
Yep. Well, God bless everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.